He had tried to push the feelings away, telling himself it was just a product of the situation. He was vulnerable, and Lily was there when he needed someone. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. One afternoon, after a particularly exhausting physical therapy session, Eric sat in his hospital bed, staring out the window at the autumn leaves falling gently to the ground. The room was quiet, save for the occasional beep of the machines. His mind drifted to Sarah, to the life they had once imagined together. He tried to picture their future, married, maybe with kids, living in a house they had saved for. But the image felt blurry, distant, like something that belonged to someone else. He didn't feel guilty anymore. That was the strange part. He had expected to feel a deep sense of loss or regret after that last conversation with Sarah, but instead, he felt relieved. The weight he had been carrying for months, the constant tension, the arguments, the uncertainty, it was gone. And in its place there was space. Space to think, to breathe, and to figure out what he really wanted. Lily walked into the room a few minutes later, her usual warm smile lighting up her face. "How's it going?" she asked, pulling up the chair next to his bed. Eric smiled, though it was tiring.
"I'm getting there," he said.
"Therapy's tough, but I think I'm making progress." "You're doing great," Lily said, her voice full of encouragement. "It takes time, but you're strong. You'll get through this." Eric looked at her for a moment, studying the way her eyes shone with sincerity. She really believed in him. It wasn't just something she said to all her patients. He could feel that she genuinely cared about his recovery, about him. And for the first time in a long time, Eric felt seen. "Can I ask you something?" Eric said after a pause, his voice quieter now. "Of course," Lily replied, her expression open and kind. "Why do you care so much?" Eric's question hung in the air, not accusatory, but curious. "I mean, I know it's your job to take care of patients, but you go above and beyond. You're always here, always making sure I'm okay."
"Why?"
Lily smiled softly, her eyes meeting his. "I care because it's important to me," she said simply. "I know what it's like to feel lost, to feel like you don't have anyone to lean on. And I know that sometimes just having someone there to listen, to be present, can make all the difference." Eric nodded, feeling a strange warmth spread through his chest. He had realized how much he had needed that, someone to just be there for him, without expectations or demands. Sarah had always been there in a different way, but her presence had come with complications. With Lily, it was simple. She didn't ask for anything. She was just there. "I don't think I've said this enough," Eric said, his voice a little rough. "But thank you for everything. I don't know how I would have gotten through all this without you." Lily's smile widened, and she reached out to gently squeeze his hand. "You don't have to thank me, Eric. I'm just glad I could help." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of their conversation lingering between them. Eric felt a pull, an undeniable connection that he had tried to ignore for weeks, but now it was impossible to deny. "Lily," Eric said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I think I'm starting to feel something for you. I know it's probably wrong, and maybe it's just because of the situation, but I can't stop thinking about you." Lily's eyes softened, and she looked down at her hands for a moment, clearly processing his words. When she looked back up, her expression was gentle but firm. Eric, I care about you a lot. And I won't lie, I've felt a connection between us too. But you're still healing, both physically and emotionally. You've just come out of a difficult relationship, and I think it's important to take things slow. Eric nodded, understanding her hesitation. She was right. He had just ended things with Sarah. He wasn't even sure how to move forward with his own life, let alone start something new. But at the same time, he couldn't ignore what was happening between them. I know, Eric said quietly. I'm not asking for anything right now. I needed to be honest about how I feel. Lily smiled again, that same warm, comforting smile that made Eric feel like everything might just be okay. I appreciate that, she said softly. Let's just take it one day at a time, okay? There's no rush. Eric nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. For once, he didn't feel the need to figure everything out all at once. He could take things slowly, allow himself to heal, and see where life led him. And as long as Lily was there, he knew he wasn't facing it alone. The next day, Sarah came to the hospital. It was unexpected. Eric hadn't heard from her in days and had assumed she had decided to take a step back. But now, as she walked into his room, her expression guarded, Eric could tell that this visit was different from the others. Hey, Sarah said quietly, standing near the door. Hey, Eric replied, sitting up in his bed. His body ached less now, and he was getting used to moving around more comfortably. They stared at each other for a moment, the tension between them palpable. Finally, Sarah broke the silence. I've been thinking a lot, she said, her voice soft but firm, about what you said the last time we talked. And about us. Eric felt his chest tighten, knowing this conversation was long overdue. Yeah? Sarah nodded, stepping closer to the bed, but keeping her distance. I know things haven't been easy between us, and I've been trying to figure out where we went wrong. I keep thinking that maybe if I'd done things differently, if I'd listened more, we wouldn't be here. Eric swallowed, feeling a strange mix of guilt and relief. It's not all your fault, Sarah. We both made mistakes. But I think we both know that this isn't working anymore, Sarah said, her voice steady, but her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I love you, Eric. I really do. But I think we've grown apart, and maybe we've been ignoring that for too long. Eric's heart ached at her words, but he knew she was right. They had been trying to hold on to something that had already slipped away. I think you're right, he said quietly. I don't want to hurt you, but I don't think we can keep pretending. Sarah wiped away a tear that had escaped, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. It was small, sad, but real. Maybe we both need to find our own paths. Eric nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. Yeah, I think we do. They talked for a little while longer, but it wasn't painful or tense like before. It was an understanding, a quiet acceptance that their relationship had run its course. When Sarah left, there were no harsh words or lingering resentment, just a shared acknowledgement that it was time to move on. As the door closed behind her, Eric exhaled, feeling lighter than he had in months. The chapter with Sarah had ended, but for the first time, He felt ready to face whatever came next. Later that evening, Lily came by to check on him again, her presence once more filling the room with warmth. Eric smiled as she sat beside him, their eyes meeting in a way that said more than words ever could. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her voice soft. "Better," Eric replied, his smile widening. "A lot better." And in that moment, with Lily by his side and the weight of the past finally lifted from his shoulders, Eric knew that whatever the future held, he wasn't afraid of it anymore. The hospital air had started to feel like home, or at least a place where Eric found some sense of comfort and routine. It was strange to think about how much had changed in such a short time. Only weeks ago, he had been wrapped up in arguments about money, future plans, and a wedding he wasn't sure he wanted anymore. Now, he was free from those burdens, and in their place, he felt an unfamiliar sense of hope. His leg was healing, and he had been making steady progress with physical therapy. Each day was better than the last, and the doctors said he might even be able to go home soon. The idea of leaving the hospital felt bittersweet, though. Eric had found a new kind of peace here, something that went deeper than physical recovery. He had found clarity, especially after his last conversation with Sarah. He hadn't heard from her since they parted ways on good terms, but that was okay.
It was better that way.
Their chapter had closed, and both of them needed time to find their own paths. But as much as Eric was ready to leave the hospital behind, there was one thing he wasn't ready to let go of: Lily. Over the past few weeks, their bond had only grown stronger. Every conversation, every quiet moment between them had drawn them closer together. It was more than just her kindness or the way she cared for him as a nurse. It was the way she understood him without needing to pry, the way she listened without judgment. She had become more than just a presence in his recovery. She had become someone he deeply cared about. Still, Eric knew he had to take things slow.
Lily had been clear about that.
They were both figuring things out, and after what he had gone through with Sarah, he didn't want to rush into anything without being sure of his feelings. But every time she walked into the room, he couldn't help but feel that spark, that warmth that told him this was something real. One afternoon, as he lay in bed flipping through a book Lily had brought him, she came in with a bright smile, her curls tied back in her usual neat bun. Eric's heart gave a small, familiar tug, and he put the book down, smiling back at her. "Hey," she said, settling into the chair beside him as she always did. "How's the books?" "It's good," Eric replied, but his smile faltered slightly as he studied her face. There was something different in her expression today, something thoughtful. "What's on your mind?" Lily hesitated for a moment, biting her lip before she spoke. "I talked to the doctor this morning," she said slowly, her voice gentle. "He said you're doing really well. You might be able to go home by the end of the week." Eric felt a strange mix of emotions at her words. Relief, of course, he was ready to get back to his life. But also sadness. The thought of leaving the hospital, of not seeing Lily every day, was harder to process than he had expected. "That's great," Eric said, trying to sound upbeat, though his chest felt heavy. "I mean, I'm ready to get back on my feet. It's just, I'm going to miss this place." Lily smiled softly, her eyes meeting his.
It's normal to feel that way.
You've been through a lot here. It's not just about healing physically. It's everything else too. Eric nodded, his heart beating a little faster. He could feel the words bubbling up inside him, the things he had wanted to say for weeks but had been holding back. If he was leaving soon, he needed to be honest. He needed to tell Lily how he felt. Lily, he said, his voice low but steady. I don't think I've ever really thanked you for everything you've done for me. You've been more than just a nurse. You've been, I don't know, a friend? A guide? I don't think I would have gotten through this without you. Lily's smile softened, her eyes warm. You don't have to thank me, Eric. It's been my pleasure. And honestly, you've helped me too. Eric raised an eyebrow, surprised. Helped you? How? She glanced down at her hands, her voice thoughtful. I've always loved being a nurse, but it can be hard sometimes. I see so many people come and go, and it's easy to feel like you're just part of the routine, just another face in someone's day. But with you, I don't know. It felt different. I felt like I was actually making a difference. You did, Eric said quietly, reaching out to gently take her hand. Her skin was warm, and the connection between them felt so natural, so right. You made a huge difference. Lily looked up at him, her eyes bright, but there was a flicker of something else there too, something vulnerable. Eric, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I care about you. A lot. But I also don't want you to feel like you have to rush into anything just because you're leaving the hospital. You've been through a lot, and I don't want to complicate things for you. Eric smiled, his heart full as he held her hand a little tighter. Lily, I don't feel rushed. I've had a lot of time to think about this. And the truth is, I want to see where this goes. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't have all the answers, but I know that I don't want to lose what we have. I don't want to walk out of here without you in my life. Lily's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and she smiled, her expression full of warmth and something that felt like hope. I want that too, she whispered. But let's take it one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. Just us. Eric nodded, feeling lighter than he had in months. One day at a time, he agreed. For the first time since the accident, Eric felt like his life was heading in the right direction. The future wasn't clear, but that didn't scare him anymore. He didn't need to have everything figured out. He just needed to take things as they came and trust that he was on the right path. The day Eric was discharged, the sun was shining brightly in the crisp autumn air. He stood at the hospital entrance, his legs still a little stiff but stronger, his heart feeling lighter than it had in a long time. Lily was there beside him, her hand resting gently on his arm as they walked toward the car. I can't believe I'm finally leaving, Eric said, glancing over at her with a grin. I thought I'd be stuck in that bed forever. Lily laughed, her smile warm. You've come a long way. I'm proud of you. Eric's heart swelled at her words, and he reached out to take her hand as they stood by the car. I couldn't have done it without you. Lily smiled, squeezing his hand gently. You did the hard part, Eric. I was just here to help. They stood there for a moment, letting the world around them fade into the background. The future stretched out before them. Uncertain, yes, but full of possibility. And for the first time, Eric felt excited about what was to come. As they said goodbye to the hospital and headed off into the unknown, Eric knew that no matter what happened, he wasn't alone. He had found something real with Lily, something that made him believe in love again, but this time, it was different. It wasn't rushed or forced. It was steady, patient, and built on a foundation of genuine care and understanding. And that was enough.